minutes. So if you turn the lights down and I could see if anybody's putting their hands up, ask anybody, of course, any questions that you may have. And there's a question here in the front. Sorry, if you're on your way to somebody else, I don't want to divert you.
This question's for Phil and Pam. I'm quite curious because in New Zealand, I think we're driven more by ideology than we are by evidence. And so I really value, Pam, your contribution there. Phil, can you please give me evidence, numbers, on the actual numbers of jobs that will be lost if we raise the minimum wage, and actually what is the economic impact of contributing in a positive way for raising minimum wage? Because I hear that we're going to lose all these jobs, but that doesn't make sense to me when you balance it up with the economic impact for the families' lives.
There's, as you know, I'm sure you've asked a question that you will know a little bit about, of course. The fact of the matter is that there is various research done on the impact of minimum wage on employment. The most recent by the then Department of Labour, which indicated there might be an employment impact. I'm well aware that it's a very, very controversial area of research, this. For every piece of research which you will show me that shows there's no impact, I'll show you a piece of research which shows there is. So it's important to understand that this is a controversial topic. But might I say that even if you, but I think it's unarguable that eventually, if you put the minimum wage up too high, it will have an employment impact, and that's certainly been the experience that we've had with our employer members. They've certainly told us that. But let me make this point to you: if you're thinking about children, at-risk children, which is what we're theoretically talking about tonight, rather than labour relations reform, I'll argue that actually the minimum wage is a rather blunt instrument and actually not a very effective instrument, because the minimum wage doesn't just apply to poor parents or at-risk parents with at-risk kids. It applies to everybody. It applies to, in fact, the kids of rich parents who might be starting out their first job in the services sector. It applies to students, university students, who might have no kids at all. So if we want to think about government policy that might impact on families and children, even if you believed that the minimum wage had no employment impact at all and that it was good in all sorts of other ways, actually it wouldn't be the first tool you'd use. You'd be thinking much more about things like accommodation supplements, working for families, in-work tax credits, medical care, public transport, childcare and so on. Those would actually be the things you'd talk about. So yeah, it's interesting to have a debate about the minimum wage, and no doubt we'll have a debate about that coming into the next election. But actually, if we're going to talk about kids, I suggest we have a different conversation.
And I suspect that Pastor Chris, based on what he said earlier, may concur with that. You asked Pam the question as well, I think.
Phil, I love the fact that you're here, but you didn't answer my question.
I think he did answer your question.
You did, but you didn't give me any evidence. You told me a story about what you think could happen, and then you said we actually have to make it. I agree that it's complex, but we need to be more evidence-based, and maybe Pam wants.
Well, let me ask Pastor Chris, because I'm interested in his view. What do you think the benefit would be to the people in South Auckland by increasing the minimum wage?
I don't think anybody in South Auckland would disagree. I mean...
But what would the benefit be?
Well, it would provide them, obviously, with more money. Other than that, I can't...
I mean, I'm wondering if
Are
there's,
you looking for some kind of...
Well, there will be fewer jobs as a consequence. But anyway, there is another question. Yes.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Lindy McIntyre. I'm from the Service and Food Workers Union. And I just thought it'd be good to put a real story into this discussion. And my story's about Emma and Peniata Enderman. They don't live in South Auckland, but they're like thousands of our members who are cleaners who do live in South Auckland. They live in Glen Innes. Emma's a single mother, she's Samoan, and she has 4 children. She wants more hours, but her employer will only give her 30 hours a week. she earns what all cleaners earn in New Zealand, which is $13.50 an hour gross. Her son, who's a teenager, goes to work every single day after school until he goes to bed, cleaning to support their family, to put food on their table. They don't have a BMW, they don't have a widescreen television, they don't have healthy food in their cupboards, and they can't afford school trips or to go on family activities. That's actually the reality of what the minimum wage is doing at $13.50 in New Zealand at the moment. We see it in thousands of our members all the time. Now, who are their employers? Because the question I've got is for Phil about whether if employers can afford this, Business New Zealand would be more encouraging that we should actually have a higher wage economy for people like cleaners. Now, most cleaners in New Zealand are employed by contractors. These cleaners are employed by Spotless. They're a multinational, very wealthy corporation, and they can certainly afford to pay more. And moreover, the client company that mother and son clean for is an extremely wealthy multinational electronics firm with, I would venture to say, unbelievable amount of money and can certainly afford it.
I get the point.
Okay,
Phil
so
will get the point as well.
My
Ask
question
him the
is,
question.
given the evidence that I've just produced, which goes much further than saying the Labour Department might have something to say on this, given that evidence, are we going to see Business New Zealand promoting more a living wage for New Zealanders that actually means they're not just surviving, barely living, but they can actually have quality time so that children can be brought out of poverty and have lives with real quality? Thank you.
Well, that's not a question, that's a slogan. So here's the point. Business New Zealand supports a healthy economy where more people get a job, and businesses will pay what they can afford to pay and what the market demands that they pay.
Well, if I could
sure.
insert, I'll make it a question and not a slogan then. If there is an employer who can afford to pay more, then why aren't they made to?
They're working in a labour market. And look, this is a fantastic stuff, and you guys are having no doubt a lot of fun talking about Labour Party policy and all that sort of stuff. The short point is I'm here to talk about kids, and I'm here to talk about the health of kids.
No, Phil, don't get upset. But that is what it's about.
Well, it's one thing of what it's about.
Poverty.
One thing of what it's about. So if we're going to talk about the welfare of children, we've got to talk about, if you want to blame people, that's fantastic. But the reality is in New Zealand, we've always had a system, certainly since the 30s, where businesses paid what they could afford and what the market demanded that they pay. And on the other side, there was a welfare system that operated, state houses and all the rest has been around for a long time, a big matter of social consensus in New Zealand. So in other words, there's always been a consensus in New Zealand that for those at risk, those who are poor, those who do not have skills, those who might have some other life issues, government will support them. Now, some people nothing to do with work also have children in poverty, children who are at risk. There's some people who can't get work for various reasons. So this isn't just a job. If we increased the minimum wage and doubled it, we would not actually solve many of the problems associated with child poverty and at-risk children in New Zealand. What we want to do is make sure that as many people as possible get a job, get skills, get choices. And at the same time, if we're going to have a conversation about child-centred policies, we need to have a much wider debate than simply having slogans about the minimum wage.
All right. I know you have to go. He's not doing a runner, ladies and gentlemen. He has given us prior notice that he has to go.
I'm happy to wait for another 5 or 10 if anybody's got any other questions.
If there are any, just before we take the next question, can I have a show of hands, please? How many business people are in the audience? 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Interesting. Next question.
Hi, I'm Tracy Bridges. I'm an employer. I'm a business owner. In my day job for my work, I also work with the likes of the Family Violence Prevention Program, SKIP, which is about positive parenting. I do voluntary work with suicide prevention. So I guess you could say that I kind of interestingly sit on both sides of what seems to have become a bit of a binary debate tonight, which is not what I was expecting when I came here.
Isn't or is?
It's not.
No.
I came here thinking that we were going to talk about how businesses and community sector can work together to really make a difference for the children in our communities, which is something that I am incredibly passionate about. So to hear this turn into a bit of a debate where the poor fellow on the stage here is being asked to apologise for and answer for, you know, some public policies and some possibly behaviours of some businesses, I think is unfair, and not actually why I gave up 2 hours away from my dear children to come along. So, one thing I do want to say, though, is to celebrate what our third speaker said about what her research and experience has shown about what works. So turning to how businesses and communities can work together to help children, there are some wonderful lessons about what works, and we found the same thing. When I was working on the Family Violence Prevention Program, we did interviews with 20 of New Zealand's most senior business people to say, what would it take to make you do more to help prevent family violence in this country? And they told us some things that were really similar to what you've told us this evening. One thing is we're ready. We want to do more, but we don't really know what our role is. And fools rush in where angels fear to tread. We know that other people know about this stuff and we kind of don't. Help us. The second thing is give us evidence, because we need to know. We don't have, you know, you might think we've got a lot of money, but we don't. We've got a bit to spare, and what we have we want to use well. Help us know that what we give you will be used well, and we will give it to you. We will walk towards you with it. And the third thing is, it is local, and it's not just local, it's personal. Business people aren't bad people. Business people are people too. And we will invest in what we feel passionate about. So meet us, talk to us, share your ideas with us, and give us something we can do. We'll do it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Many thank yous. Next question. Yes.
Kia ora, my name is Peter Dixon. I'm from Department of Internal Affairs Charities, also known previously as the Charities Commission. I just wanted to share a couple of things. One was around the doing something part, and we had a great meeting with Phil this week. So we have just finished a piece of research with 1,000 businesses around the country, and we were really surprised that the final question said, would you like to receive some more information from the Charities Commission on how to better support community organisations? And we were really surprised that 340 businesses said, yes, please, help us, we want to know. And so we're working on that piece. One of the other things that's been great is we worked with the Sustainable Business Network, the Sustainable Business Council, Business Network International, Business New Zealand, Chambers of Commerce, Employer and Manufacturers Association, and all of them were very helpful. All of them were really interested in supporting in this space. And so I wanted to put that piece there too. I thank you for your comment. I'm really with you. I'm actually very happy to be here with my mum this evening. I'm one of 4 children, and I remember fighting with my little brother, and when we had a fight, and I said he started it, and he said that I started it, neither of us got anywhere. And I think I really wanted to reiterate that, because it's like, well, we're all here to find those bits in between, the space in between that we can find to work with each other. So I want to bring focus back to that. And to reiterate your point, we've done some focus groups with businesses and charities in the same room to have them speaking and getting to know each other. And another SME business owner in that focus group said, interrupted the session. She said, look, I, as a SME business owner, I know what it means to be green, and I'm really interested to do that. Reduce, reuse, recycle, turn the lights off, photocopy on both sides, put things in the recycling bin. What the heck am I meant to do when it comes to community support and engagement? I have no idea. I really need some help with this.
I would like somebody, I'd like everybody here to take away something concrete tonight, and I'm open to anybody in the audience that may have a suggestion. Yes. There's 2 microphones. Who's going to go first? You, yeah.
Kia ora tātou, I'm Kate Frickberg from the Todd Foundation. I'm an ex-business person, so I guess I try and bridge the worlds, and I think it's really good that we're trying to do that today. I had a question for Chris. I'm really with you when you say that we need to change the way we think, and I think that all of us have ways that we need to change some of our thinking. What I'm really curious about is what you have found is most helpful for helping people to change the way they think.
Oh, there's so many. One of the things that we've been doing is running public forums with the wider community on a lot of the issues and bringing in carefully selected people to be able to speak to the communities. It's been about raising, and these are community-based solutions. I know that the mention of data was important, but it was important that who was actually providing that data. But also for us as the Dream Centre in terms of addressing a lot of those issues with the people. And a lot of it has also been coming out of my own personal journey. But we're actually engaging the community. In fact, we're getting ready to engage a separate community on its own in terms of addressing a lot of those issues and those mindsets. But it's been able to sit down and talk with the people face to face and just walking with them.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Tara. I'm originally from Canada. I have to explain the accent, but I've lived in New Zealand for 20 years. I'm a self-employed consultant. I work both in the private and the public sector. Kim, I wanted to respond to your question for tactical examples. I mean, I'm appreciating the strategic conversation we're having, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. However, when I go and work with a chief executive in an organization, often even in government or private, I often extend that to finding out about corporate responsibility and what they want to do better. I will go and find an organization on the side, often a nonprofit, and I will just get those people in a room. And being able to talk both the nonprofit language and the private, and I can sell it to the chief executive, I make something happen. I think New Zealand's a small place, and we need to harness that and keep doing that. That's the one thing I see is a benefit in New Zealand. I couldn't do that where I'm from in Canada. It's just it's too big, there's too many informal rules to follow. New Zealand's a great place. I find that works, and I would encourage other people in my position to do the same.
Can I ask you, this is by no means a rude question to anybody, but is there no risk of middle-class capture in that kind of circumstance? Does the profit help get to where it is needed?
You know, often it's not profit-based, and it's...
No, the proffered help, sorry.
Does it get to where it's needed?
Yes.
I guess that's where I keep inserting myself into the equation and bridge the gap. And I have found it to be pretty successful. It's often off the radar. It's often not something they use for PR purposes. But it has been, obviously, you know, and that's something that can work as well. But I have found that it has been helpful. But my point is to just, you know, New Zealand's small. Everybody knows people in both of those sectors. Bring them together. Forget putting a committee together and talking about it. That's great, but I have found that work because New Zealand is a small place.
Being a go-between.
Just being a go-between.
Yeah.
Knowing both, and I think so many people in this today, I don't know many people here, but probably are like me and know how to work in both sectors.
Yeah. Well, that's the mad thing in New Zealand. Everybody knows everybody else.
And so I try to leverage off that, you know?
Could I follow up on what
Tara.
you guys a really valuable point. I was really, I wanted to really identify with all that Pam said. That was an immaculate presentation of actually what businesses think. It's very close. And the point that you're making is the same point that Pam makes. Often this is actually personal for the CEO or it's personal for the chairman. But it works really well when company disciplines, when the usual commercial / company strategy disciplines are brought to bear. So the danger is the danger of the capture is where it's kind of a nice to do thing that the chairman's wife thinks would be nice. You know, that's the danger. The better idea is where it's a deeply held belief by the leaders of the company that it matters, and then it impacts company strategy. So then it becomes a deeply held belief of the people on the factory floor, and it becomes a deeply held belief of the people who work in accounts, and you know all of that sort of stuff. And so it becomes an authentic piece of company strategy. So that if you can achieve that, that's when you get the kind of magic that Pam's talking about and that Plunkett wants, where it's no longer just a check, and it's no longer held just in the CSR department or in the PR guys. It becomes a key part of how we do business around here, so that all of the assets of the firm, human and capital assets, are all being pointed at this opportunity as a key part of what we do around here. So, and that's a magical thought. And the point that you're making is a good one, and that is that often it's quite hard to make the first conversation with a company. I was talking to a charity today that encourages people to read books to kids, young mums and caregivers to read books to toddlers. Great idea. Struggling to get the first conversation going with business. So that person rang me up, and because of the contacts I've got, I could give them a contact in business so they could have the first conversation. So I think it's a really insightful point.
But
Well,
I
and I
think
think-
the other thing is that you need a common language.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the conversations many times go like this, yes. And so many times you do need almost an interpreter.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I've offered, and let me just clarify, I'll give it to someone else. The companies didn't approach me to do this. I just, as Kim said, go out on a limb as an aside as to what I'm working for and just try to make that happen. And that's my own volunteering
How
efforts.
interesting. And there you are from Canada, and there's Pam from
Alaska.
It's like, do New Zealanders just wait for... I mean, this is wrong, because I know we don't. But do you think we might just wait for somebody else to do something? Is that what it is? I don't know. What? How? Get
I
a
don't know if I'm
microphone and give
allowed.
me a theory or a question. Risk averse. For God's sake, we climbed Everest. What are you on?
First.
Yeah. Oh, somebody's pointing at the clock. We've got time for one more question. And there's a lady up the back.
My name's Jill Press, and when the Kahui twins died, I'm not working, and I went, I need to make a difference. I've got to do something. And I approached a number of organisations in Wellington, and they said, oh, you need to do a course. And I went, no, I don't want to do a course. I've brought up 3 children. I think maybe I can help somebody. And I've been involved now with a young family for 4.5 years. I'd like to think I've made a difference. I'm pretty sure I have. We've been to the psych unit and back with the mum with suicide attempts. And I actually think every person could actually reach out to somebody somewhere, so long as they don't have to do a course and we have to go through police vetting and everything else, and that, I suppose that's another issue. But I actually stood up and have, I think made a difference to one young family in Wellington.
You have to walk alongside people.
I do.
As
I
Chris
do.
was saying.
And
that's not just sticking money in the envelope.
That's correct, and it's also trying to do make them think they've got to get off the benefit, and they don't want to listen because that's putting other things that they're going to not be there for their child. Coming home from school, I have to stand back, and I have to go forward, and I go back, but we're getting there, I hope.
Thank you. We're going to have to wrap it, and I know that there's a great deal more to say, and I appreciate all you coming out, and I really do appreciate those of you who have spoken up and given us all something to think about, walking alongside other people. Thank you. And thank you to our panel, Professor Chris Sola, Jenny Prince, Jenny Muth, and Phil O'Reilly. Thank you.